This is the Surly Grognards for May 5th, 2014. This is Peter Bowman, and as usual, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Eric Carlson. How are you doing tonight, Eric?
Just realized that it's May and I haven't paid rent yet. Is what just happened.
Oh, dear.
So
Well,
I'll be doing that after chat.
let's see. Oh, God, here's your money. Fortunately, your landlords just live right downstairs. So.
Yeah, and they're really cool about that. They kind of expect us to be a little bit late, honestly.
Right. So, tonight we're going to be talking about character backgrounds.
Mm.
And the reason we're going to be talking about this is one of the questions we got via the forums today, this week. We looked at this, we read it, and we both sort of went, "Wah-bleh."
Where?
And I thought that it might actually be able to spin out into a full show, just because of the various questions the question raised with us.
Mm.
And the question in question sent to us by Forspada. And Forspada said he linked us to this text file there was a bunch of questions about their character that a game master wanted them to answer before they joined the group. What are your opinions on how much a game master should know about a character? Which questions should be asked, and when is it too much? Something around those lines. They followed it up. Forspada followed it up by saying, "Oh, I almost forgot. He asked me to fill them out in full paragraphs." So I'm like, okay, well, if it's a short questionnaire, that's the full paragraph thing is odd, but understandable.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I looked at it.
Hello?
Uh,
Did you explode?
I did not explode.
Okay, good.
For some reason, I can't open the questionnaire now.
I think I got it. Hold on.
Yeah. Not a big deal. I got it. I got it now.
All right.
Just got to open. It's just got to open. It's being dumb.
Ah, it's being slow.
Also, I think they signed me out of Google Docs.
No, I hate it when that happens.
So yeah. There we go. So I started looking at it. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is fine. Okay. What's your character's name? Got my pseudonyms, etc. Started scrolling through. Like, how many questions are there? I kept scrolling and scrolling. And I noticed that it was 7 pages long. And there are, in fact, 107 questions.
Yeah. The fact that they want a whole paragraph for each of these is boggling.
Now, I'm guessing part of it is that they're expecting paragraphs for ones that are more than a yes or no or a quick answer type thing.
Right.
But 107?
Yeah.
Even if they were yes or no questions, I mean, God. I mean, I read through something and going, wow, what is this, the Voight Kampf?
Let me tell you about my mother.
Yeah, so the question of what is too much? This is. uh, that's a simple. That's a bit of a simplification, honestly.
Well, here's the thing. I'll say when I'm making a character, I'll have the roughest of backgrounds sketched out.
Right.
I'm more worried about the personality and about the personality and the mechanics at first. And a lot of this I will let grow and let the personality inform the background inform the personality as the character develops over the course of the campaign. When we're cooking up characters for the Iron Kingdoms game, like Skidger's asking me all these questions about my character. Like, I don't know, he's this guy, I guess.
Right. And that's part of the thing is that different players need different levels of stuff that sort of thing determined. Like for some players, doing that a lot of detailed background work actually will hinder their play. How well they'll actually, how comfortable they'll feel playing the character.
Yeah, and I I can respect wanting to have information about the characters
Absolutely.
as the GM, because there could be adventure hooks in there, and there could
Mm-hmm.
be um, but wanting to tailor things for the characters and that sort of deal. I get that. I respect that. I think it's a questionnaire is not a terrible idea for, excuse me, for particularly for new players. It makes them start thinking about their character.
Right.
But 107 questions.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the hang on, let me dig this up. I think I know. I think it's right here at hand. The Amber Diceless game has a questionnaire in it for players. That's actually really important for Amber.
Mm.
Partially because of the unique way in which you create characters in Amber. And the
Yeah,
fact that
Amber's
it's
kind of weird in the way it handles that.
and a lot of the questions are things that actually will help you with your character mechanically, because Amber's mechanics are different.
Yeah, and there's a bit of that with the Dresden Files game that I have
Right.
also. Partially because the idea is everyone gets together, makes their characters and the city itself together.
Right.
Which is a really cool way to do it, and you should do more of that with games, personally. But
For the right games, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
They're not. It's not something for every game, but
well, you certainly don't need it for more of a like say Cyberpunk 2020 or Shadowrun. At least initially, it makes perfect sense for the characters to know each other just in passing professionally.
right. Yeah. Oh, especially for like. I mean, right now, I'm trying to find the questions in the Ember book.
Mm.
I think it's in here. I remember looking at this. Fortunately, my book was
I
right.
don't remember ever filling out the questionnaire for Amber, but
Well, it wasn't one that you had to fill out. It was something. It was like it's a thing that like a suggested thing for game masters to
right.
the character quizzes, yes. And there's a bunch of questions here. They don't recommend. They actually say specifically. They list off a whole bunch of questions. They're like,
What's the character's name? Does he have any pants? If so, is he wearing them at the moment? Forget pants. How do you feel about quilts? Or kilts? Everybody likes quilts.
all right. So they present about 40 questions in here, and they specifically
That's
say,
still a ridiculous
no,
amount.
they specifically say pick a handful of them.
Okay.
It's a bunch of different questions that you could ask, and the difference is the questions that was sent to Forspada are very detailed and very specific, and a lot of them tie into the game world and that sort of thing. And there are things like the questions in here are a lot different stylistically. Like what is your character's favorite food, drink? What food does the character hate? Okay, that's reasonable. That's sort of an interesting
Yeah,
thing.
that makes perfect sense.
My favorite that I saw just on a quick glance is your character is played by a recurring dream or nightmare. Describe it.
Mm.
Now that's something.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I mean, it's things like that. And these are all really cool ideas, for ways to handle it. And I like the idea of having like a big chunk of questions you can ask. Like that list, great. And then you basically say to the player, pick like 10 and answer them.
Mm.
And that'd be actually kind of awesome.
Yeah, that could be really cool, actually.
But this also brings the question is sort of what. So the questions that he asked, though, I mean, what are your opinions on how much a game master should know about a character? That's an interesting question, actually.
That's a good question, really. Because the game master should know a decent amount. Because he's the game master, he needs to be able to tailor things for the blah 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 for the players.
Right.
But at the same time, the game master doesn't need to know more than the player does.
Right.
In fact, should not, under any circumstances, know more than the player does.
Yeah, my personal take on it is the game master should everything the player has decided about the character that is germane to the campaign, the game master should know. Like little small details about like what your favorite food is, that doesn't matter. how many parents like how many brothers and sisters you had. Probably not that important. You don't need to share. That's not necessary to be
Or
shared.
do you need to know their names or their social
Right.
standings or yeah.
I mean, you might want the game master to know that stuff. That's fine. The game master needs to know stuff that like secrets your character would have that would be important. You know, and keeping things that will plot twist and surprise the game master is usually a bad idea.
Yeah, no, the plot twist and surprise the game master, bad idea. The game master needs to know that shit. The game master needs to know that your half-orc barbarian is actually a ticker gnome with a very complicated power suit,
Right.
which is a character and I want to play.
I hate you, Eric. Just so you know.
How much fun would that be? Oh my god, why haven't I done this yet?
Because you're a good person and don't want to cause me pain. God.
He's a necromancer. He's actually a dead half-orc, and he's hollowed out the chest cavity and like moves it around by pulling like muscle and sinew. It's hilarious.
I guess you could describe it as hilarious. That's a word you could use to describe it, sure.
I'm also the guy that thinks Cannibal the Musical is hilarious.
Yes. But yeah, that sort of stuff has to be told to the game master. They have to know this stuff. Otherwise, catching the game master off guard with,
Oh, did I mention I'm actually a lost prince? What? No, that's kind of important.
I should have known that from the start. I wouldn't have structured things this way if you told me that.
Yeah.
Or I might have, but it would have been nice to know. Basically, my thing is that sort of thing is smacks of playing gotcha, which is not the point in a role-playing game, in my opinion.
There could be a bit of that with the game master, but it has to be under very specific circumstances with a particular crew.
Like, I mean, there's a difference between doing like major plot twists are one thing,
Yeah.
but doing it out of a sense of sort of malicious glee, which is what I sort of mean when I say gotcha.
Oh,
as a gotcha
yeah.
thing.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
The game master's not trying to you're not trying to put one over on each other to prove you're better than each other, basically.
Unless you're playing paranoia, but then in that case, it's not to prove you're better than anyone else. It's to be funny and hilarious.
Yeah, well, that's because it's paranoia, and paranoia is its own unique thing. Yeah, but yeah, there are a lot of games where like crafting a huge, elaborate backstory is great.
No, that's awesome, and that's great. I find it personally to be a little restrictive to do that.
I agree, actually. I like leaving good chunks of character to develop that later, so I can grow the character as I see fit and make
and
make
the
it feel.
characters, because the character, I grow into the character grows into me. I'm not sure which way to go with that. And that's something I figured out after decades of doing this.
Right, exactly. And this isn't again. Eric and I are very similar on this sort of thing, honestly, which is. Eric and I agree. Actually, here's a bizarre bombshell. We agree about this sort of thing for the same reasons.
Which is really weird.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of confused, Eric.
If we entered in an alternate universe,
I don't. Maybe.
do you have a goatee? I have a goatee. But then we'd both be part of the same mirror universe. So that doesn't...
Actually, I have gone down to a goatee. I don't have full beard right now.
Okay. So maybe you're mirror universe, Peter? No, that doesn't make any sense.
No.
No. Because mirror universe Peter would not have a beard at all.
Exactly. I'd be clean shaven. See? And I haven't done that for years now.
Yeah, I can't think of the last time I've seen you clean shaven, honestly.
About 2 years ago, I think. I shaved my... anyway, I shaved and said, oh, right, this is why I grew a beard.
Yeah, it's kind of like how I decided to grow my hair back out, and I was like, oh, right, it gets really itchy to half inch. Screw this, I'm shaving.
Yeah, it's the... Yeah. So, yeah, So that's the first thing, is how much should the Game Master... The Game Master should know the important stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to surprise the Game Master with your character's background is a bad idea, and will generally be disruptive, in my opinion.
And it's not something you want to do because the game master needs to know that shit so that your character can in fact be a special snowflake, which is kind of part of the reason why I think a player might do that. But the
Yeah,
game master is there to help facilitate that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
What questions should be asked? That's the thing. What questions should be asked is something the game master should work out with the players. Honestly,
yeah,
coming up with a list of interesting questions is a great thing. And honestly, I might
and a
actually
lot of them might be just there to get particularly a new player thinking about how their character interacts.
exactly.
Like, what's your favorite food? Does your character have a recurring dream or nightmare? That kind of thing. There's a great way to get the person thinking about their character, but isn't necessarily important to the game master.
Right. Actually, what I might do after Grognards is I might type up the question section from Amber into a Google Doc and post a link to that in the in my blog,
Mm.
so that people can look at the questions and see if they spark interest in possibly using them. I don't know if that'll be useful, but I think it's something interesting to look at.
Yeah, and again, not to disparage the guy that wrote up this list.
Not at all.
He obviously cares a lot about it, and that's
Yes,
awesome.
it is. Honestly, but yeah. Before we go any
I
further,
see what he's trying to do, and I respect and admire him for it.
Yep.
I just think he went a little overboard.
and yeah, how much is too much? Asking a player to write 107 paragraphs is too much.
Yeah, I mean, you're not writing your thesis for your doctorate here.
Whenever I've asked people to write up backgrounds for their characters, I've always said no more than 2 pages, please.
For a brand new character, they'll be lucky to get a paragraph and a half out of me, honestly.
That's fine. I've had players who would have written up like 10-page papers on it. I'm like, no, dude,
No,
2
dude,
pages.
Just...
Keep it simple. Summarize stuff. Because I've done that. I have asked for backgrounds written up for campaigns. I did a couple times in college. And these are the people who are.
I think I did one for the Star City game, actually. I don't know if you asked for it, whether I just did it on a whim. I think I did it on a whim.
I think you did actually.
Kind of like how, like for Iron Kingdoms, I just decided to draw a character sketch.
Right. But yeah, I've asked for stuff like that in the past, but it's usually dependent on the group. Like some groups, I won't bother because I know the players will. Either the players are the type of players who want to come up with things during the course of play, or they tend to work better if they're just sort of thinking it up in their heads and writing it down. But just they feel constricted by it.
Yeah. Yeah, because once you write it down, then it's part of. Then you it's like you've named it, and by naming it, you give it power, type of deal.
Yeah.
I haven't been reading Malice Maleficarum at all. No.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, by the way, and as a completely random aside, I just want to share with the chat that my friend Dan, who is occasionally in the chat here, swung by last week and gave me a copy of the Malice Maleficarum, which is fucking awesome.
Right. What is? Why don't you explain what that is?
The Malice Maleficarum is it's Latin for the Hammer of Witchcraft, and it's the book on witchcraft and demonology that the Inquisitors during the Spanish Inquisition used to have when they went witch hunting, which it makes it one of like the big treatises on occult lore in Western civilization, and yeah, a lot of it's bullshit but I love this kind of bullshit.
It's interesting bullshit.
Yeah, it's really cool bullshit.
Right. So yeah, I do think that coming up with backgrounds for your characters is definitely important. I think coming up with just a paragraph or two for yourself is a good thing to have, and if the game master wants to see it, I think it's a good thing to share with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've got anything big in the background, then you need to tell the game master.
Right. If just make sure that it's kosher. Because, I mean, odds are the game master knows more about his game world than you do.
Yeah.
And if something doesn't fit in, he should let you know. Yeah, he will let you know. Now, my personal reaction for most of the time when someone presents me with something that didn't fit in with the way I originally envisioned the game world, I'll probably say yes anyways. just because I like having things. I like it when the players are actually part of creating the world to a certain degree.
Yeah.
It makes them more invested, and so on. There are limits to what I will allow.
So I used to rule the world, but
No.
but I was struck down by a bunch of time traveling superheroes, which altered the timescapes. Now no one remembers that I ruled the world, but I did once, and I retained a small portion of my godlike power, and that's why now I'm out adventuring.
You know,
you're a crazy
campaign,
man,
in the right
is what you're
campaign,
saying.
in the right campaign, I'd almost allow that.
That would actually be a great character for a superhero campaign.
Yeah, that would.
I just thought of it. Yeah,
Also, you've also just described the four monarchs from Feng Shui.
I did actually. Yes. God damn it, I did it again.
Oh, Feng Shui. Yeah, for those who don't know, the Feng Shui game world involves time travel, manipulating history, and the backstories, and the players can do that to a certain limited degree also. But for a long time in the Feng Shui universe, the world was ruled by four brothers and sisters, all of whom were immensely, obscenely, godlike powered sorcerers. And then in 1986, due to some time traveling shenanigans, they had never ruled the world and were now dying of old age. So they had to flee to the Netherworld where their magic would work again, because magic didn't work anymore.
Daft clever of them.
So in all the surface worlds. So yeah, they were like, they'd ruled the world for hundreds of years until 1986 when they never had. What?
God damn it.
Time travel's weird, man. But yeah, backgrounds are, as I said, they're definitely important, and I think they're useful, very useful for players and for game masters. For a lot of the reasons Eric mentioned, actually, for the game master seat, players having defined backgrounds, as you said, often offers adventure hooks, which is great.
Mm.
It means that the game master has got little tools they can use to create little plot elements and such and do things. The other big thing is that it makes the players again feel more invested in the game world because
and more invested in their characters.
right, because their character is part of the world, definitively.
But you're part of this world. I also haven't recently seen the Two Towers at all.
So yeah, trying to think of anything else to say. I mean, I definitely think the idea of asking the players, giving the players a questionnaire and saying answer some questions off of this.
Yeah, or asking for a brief and concise background, because there's no need for a goddamn book. There's no need for an autobiography.
Right. I think those are
simply because the game master's never going to be able to keep track of it all.
They've got so much else on their plate.
Yeah. Just a few paragraphs and some stuff that might be useful for the player character, the game master to know about your character, both as a person and to provide any adventure hooks that you think might be cool.
Right, and it means also that your character will help you fix some elements of your character in your own mind.
Yes. At the same time, like I said, after having done this for a long time, I've come to the conclusion that the more detailed my character's background is, the more restrictive I find it, and the less naturally the character seems to grow.
Right, exactly. I think it's bizarrely more important to have a detailed background in a intentionally short campaign, sort of like a miniseries type thing.
Yeah, which helps crystallize the character that much quicker, because you're just doing like 3 or 4 sessions, which means
even like 10, 15 or what have you. But
yeah,
if it's planned to be a short campaign that you're not planning to go a long time, I think it's actually very helpful to do it, to have a detailed background there.
Yeah.
But if you're planning, if you don't have any plans for exactly how long it's going to run, I definitely think a more fluid background is probably for most people better.
Yes.
Not everybody, There are people for whom a detailed, rigorous background write-up is actually important for them, and that's fine.
And this is a case where I'm going to say everyone is a special snowflake and handles things differently.
Well, for the most part, they do. I mean,
Yeah, and I just yeah, and yeah, it's everyone will handle this differently, and for some people, having the big long background is really important for them to get into the character. For other people, it's a straitjacket that's slowly strangling them.
right. Yeah, so avoid straitjackets.
Yes, and nooses and other unpleasant things, unless that's your kink.
In that case,
use it safely.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I'm trying to think of something else. I mean, I'm trying to think of good examples of. Yeah, as I said,
I have a good example of a character who's for this. Years and years ago, there's a Shadowrun campaign that went on for ages.
Right.
Where when I initially made the character, decided I wanted to play a troll because it's Eric.
Right.
And I hadn't really done a magical character before, so I decided I wanted to do a shaman. And I wanted him to be like a street shaman, be really sort of gritty, do the whole like gritty like urban spiritualism kind of thing, and decided dog shaman. He's going to be like a junkyard dog. Why is he sort of like a junkyard dog? Because he grew up in Chicago during the big insect spirit infestation. So he's also really afraid of insects. He's got a phobia for insects and is paranoid, so he's into conspiracy theories. Bang.
It's kind of awesome.
As the character developed, then as the campaign went on, the character really developed. It became sort of it turned out he really liked kids, and I decided that was because he led a small group of kids, being not much more than a 12-year-old himself at the time, as sort of like a gang to protect themselves. And so he really likes kids, and he feels really paternal towards gangs in general. And yeah, and all of this stuff sort of grew out as the character developed. And it was in general really distrustful of authority figures, despite being very loyal. Again, coming out of the whole Bug City thing.
Right.
And all these things like ended up informing each other over the course of years of playing this character.
Right.
So, and almost none of that was crystallized at the beginning of the character. At first, it was just, I want to play a dog shaman from Chicago.
Right. So that's and that's a good example of exactly what we've been talking about, where it allowed Eric to develop a very interesting and very realized character over the course of the campaign, which I think is great.
Yeah, I really like Boxwell.
There we go. Again, since I'm primarily a game master, I don't get to come up with details like that. I rarely write up detailed backgrounds for my characters when I do play. I usually do, like Eric, develop things over the course of campaigns. It just feels more natural to me.
Right.
Also, if I start working on detailed stuff, it's like, when I'm doing this much work for this, it's when I'm game mastering. I want to do things differently when I'm playing.
Yeah, and I tend to do more planning when game mastering than Peter does, but I think that's also because I'm just less experienced. And I tend to try to keep things fluid anyway. I mean, it's like when I'm sort of use it. Like when I'm playing a tabletop war game, I go into the game with a very basic battle plan, but I try to keep it fluid to account for opportunities that might open up or mistakes I might make and I need to cover for.
Right.
So no plan survives contact with the enemy or your players. So
well, yes. I've long said no plot survives contact with the players. So
exactly. So the plan is to have a very rough idea for a plan but keep fluid for how things develop. And that goes for when you're making a character, too. At least for me.
Indeed. All right. But yeah, so as a player, I'm sort of thinking about it. I'm trying to think of good examples as a player. One the one example I can think of that Eric would know anything about would be Nalem,
Mm.
the Celestin smuggler I played in our friend Chris's Star Wars game, Star Wars Z20
It's actually
game.
another great example of what I just described with Boxwell.
Right. Nalem, I basically I didn't know much. I hadn't. What I decided about Nalem early on was he was a smuggler. He didn't like the Empire because A is because he's an alien, B because reasons. Because duh, really. So he's a Celestin smuggler. He took a great deal of delight in pissing off. He took a great deal of delight in running Imperial blockades and such because, well, fuck those guys. He the thing we'd started the campaign is he'd had a ship but had it impounded. Sorry, not impounded, but conscripted away by the Empire, which was
Hey, you got an IOU.
yep,
Which wasn't worth the money it was printed. The not the money, the paper was printed on.
right, yeah.
But
The Empire legally stole my ship, which is one of those fuckers. But the only other real major details about him, and I had decided on why at the start of this, but there were two things that he would not two types of jobs he would not touch. Which was there are two things he wouldn't smuggle, which were drugs and slaves.
slaves is kind of a you're decent. Well, I don't want to say human being, a decent sentient.
Yes. He'd carry medical supplies, but nothing beyond that. In fact, that was one of his favorite things to smuggle. But yeah, he guns, sure, whatever. But I had decided on why not drugs, and that sort of came along as the campaign went along for me. It was mostly that he'd seen what a lot of them do to people around him, and he didn't like it, and decided that I'm just not going to touch this shit.
I remember that over the course, that was actually a point of contention between our two characters.
Yep.
Because we ended up with a whole bunch of spice, and I was like, "This is awesome! I'm gonna make furniture out of it so we could smuggle it, and then I don't know what we do after that. I just want to make furniture out of spice." No, Ken Rocco, we're not taking that onto the ship. But there's so much of it, and we can sell it and make furniture.
No,
At least make a fort out of the bricks of it.
Fine until we're actually into deep space where I'm going to space the stuff.
Oh.
I
was playing Space Lister. I didn't realize it till halfway through the campaign, but I was playing a Wookiee was basically Lister from Red Dwarf.
Yeah. And yeah, the other point was, that I remember I remember my character getting annoyed with your character about the times that you actually indulged.
Yeah. Because I was Shaggy Lister, Shaggy-er Lister.
Yeah, it's like fine. Getting drunk, fine. I'm not happy about it, but I can tolerate it.
Holy crap! This incredibly toxic neurotoxin is kind of awesome for tripping. Get that out of your system.
Stop it. It's lethal. Stop.
No, it's not. I can't feel my legs anymore. A lot of that was done for comedic effect.
Oh, absolutely was. Oh, that was, but yeah, Nalem. A lot of his personality quirks developed over the course of the campaign. His whole loyalty to the crew thing didn't really develop until later on. Part of the reason I developed that was a reason to keep Leland and Will's characters on board, and not try to find ways to ditch them constantly.
As funny as that could have been.
Oh yeah. Also, as a reason for my situation, when we got caught in one situation. I'm like, wow, I just realized I have an absolutely perfect plan to basically make off with fuck tons of money and leave everybody else there to take the fall for me.
But that would end the campaign.
But that would end the campaign. Well, either it would end. I wouldn't be able to play Nalem anymore.
Yeah.
Nalum will become an NPC, and then the campaign will be all about trying to get back at Nalum. That bastard.
That rat bastard with his freaking jowls.
He just dumped us in the lap of a very unhappy crime lord. Fuck.
Yeah.
And that was the point where I finally crystallized my whole. Okay, this is the reason why I've been sticking with the people. Everybody once they're on the ship, and actually part of the crew. Okay, this makes sense.
Leave your crew behind, and that makes sense.
Yeah, well, once you're part of the crew, I actually, Nalum felt, honor bound, realistically, to, make sure that you guys were okay.
Mm.
I mean, that's part of the reason he was so upset with Kenraku about, the occasional using of various illicit drugs. Because you weren't okay then. It was nothing to do with professionalism.
Well, I was okay by my definition.
Uh-huh.
It was not a very good definition.
No, it wasn't. And still, I tolerated you far better than I tolerated either DY or
Well,
Jack.
Nalum and Kenraku actually got along, despite Kenraku's,
Well, for the most part, Kenraku was an easy-like guy, I mean.
Yeah.
And Nalum was actually pretty easy to get along with, too, for the most part.
Yeah. The murderous assassin droid, however.
Yeah, well, yeah. I did not like... Nalum did not like Leland's character. Mostly because he was...
kind of approached it with, how can I make a character that will creep out all the other characters all the time? I'll make a murderous assassin droid that's an expert poisoner and a chef.
Yep.
Which was funny, but...
Yep. It's an assassin droid. Without a restraining bolt.
Uh-oh.
This is bad. And he wants to hang around with us on our ship.
Uh-oh.
And he's being helpful.
Oh, so
like,
helpful.
Actually helpful.
Remarkably helpful, actually. And outside of combat, no less.
Right. In fact, he seems to actually kind of like us. I'd get rid of him, but I'm abjectly terrified of him. So yeah, I'm not going to try to put a restraining bolt on him. Even in the opposite situation where I put a fake one on him to get him by a security scan.
Yeah.
Security inspection. I didn't even think about trying to make it a real one.
Well, it's because he was part of the crew at the time.
There's that too, but yeah, there's also if I try this and screw up, he'll kill me.
Yeah, Kenraku was another character where everything developed over time.
Yep.
He was another character I really enjoyed, and the character grew up around my antics, and I enjoyed that.
Right.
And a questionnaire would have stifled that, honestly.
Yeah, a detailed one would have. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, and Will's character Jack, Nalum never liked, but eventually accepted that he was part of the crew and had to deal with him.
It was good to have a Jedi on board. Genasi, or whatever weird subsect he was. He was a Jedi.
Stupid freaking Force users.
Their laser swords and their wacky rules and...
These are not the droids you're looking for. Stop that! Stop monkeying around people's brains!
That was a great way to get Will's character onto the ship, actually. It was the Force told me I needed to be with you guys.
Yes.
And our reaction was perfectly reasonable for who we were. Just, that's the dumbest idea ever. Why would you listen to the Force?
Right. No, but I just love the ongoing sort of contention between Jack and Nalum, because Nalum, in addition to being, a hotshot pilot and smuggler, he was also something of a con artist. He was a fast talker, basically, an amazing at convincing people to do things he wanted them to do.
Right.
And, Will's like, why do you object so much to me using the Force to influence people when you do it all the time by talking to them?
Because I'm not taking their choice away when I do it.
Exactly. They have a choice to make. There's always a choice. And he was like, "But and entirely in character, he didn't get it. It was great.
Yeah, he totally got it out of character. It made perfect sense to him, but like in character, it was like does not compute.
The other great moment was when we were escaping the Star Destroyer, and I did all the crazy like astrogation stuff in my head, and he's like, "How is that even possible?" Oh, that's rich from you, coming from you, Mister. I can levitate cars with my mind.
That was also pretty good.
And Will's reaction to that was, "Okay, fair point." I really didn't. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the characters and the plot in that game.
Mm.
I just wish I liked the Star Wars Z20 system.
Yeah.
Because I didn't. I think
it had some. It had some flaws in it.
Honestly, my biggest complaint about it is still to this day that you are so much better off wearing armor, which is so not in feel for the game.
Yeah.
For Star Wars, it's like no, you shouldn't be wearing actual. You don't wear armor in Star Wars. That's not what you're supposed to do unless you're a stormtrooper
Or a bounty hunter.
Yeah,
In which case, you've got all sorts of shit like built into your armor.
right. It's more of a hard place to mount gadgets and stuff.
Yeah.
Like most people's armor doesn't actually help that much against blaster fire.
Or in the case of stormtroopers, apparently sticks and rocks.
Yeah, well, we're not going to go into that. Rocks and sticks.
And still a point of contention for me. And yeah.
Well, again, yeah, the original version of the original version of the story when he wrote everything for Star Wars and had to cut it back to what Star Wars was.
Yeah.
Was that the Death Star
was Wookiees.
It was supposed to be Kashyyyk, basically.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be Wookiees that were they got for that, and that would have been awesome.
That would have been awesome. It would have made perfect sense to have Wookiees running around bashing stormtroopers to death with sticks and rocks. Because they're 7-foot tall beast monsters.
Yeah. Yes,
As
a
opposed
Wookiee
to teddy bears.
Oh, a Wookiee wielding a large stick, whomping on, or God help me, an actual real weapon on a stormtrooper. I mean, even if you're not penetrating the armor, they're going to be battered around inside it also so much that it's going to suck for them anyways.
Really cool, but oh well.
But I think we've covered talking about backgrounds for the most part pretty well. I mean, there's more. There's always more we could talk about, but I think we covered the sort of the basic core stuff that we wanted to touch on today.
Yeah, I think so.
So, yeah, long story short...
Oh, holy shit, I just realized Rook from the Iron Kingdoms game is fucking Chewbacca.
Yes, he is, basically.
I just realized that.
All right. We did get a couple of other things, though, in the mail and such.
Cool.
Which is a plus. But yeah, so we got a question from Egon. This Sunday, he DM'd for the first time. He's running a Parasite Eve campaign using the Savage Worlds rules. Cool.
Cool, very cool.
Parasite Eve is an interesting game.
I remember that game. I don't remember it well, but I remember it.
His favorite dungeon in that video game was the Museum of Natural History, and he wanted to recreate that feeling for the campaign. The party's now trapped in the Tennessee Aquarium. As the campaign progresses, the aquarium will slowly flood and fill with mutant creatures.
That sounds fun.
That sounds
sounds lots of fun.
That sounds kind of fucking awesome. I do, however, want to take advantage of the water's third dimension for a few of the more climatic encounters. Some of my players are licensed scuba divers who would probably really like it, and wanted to ask you if you'd ever tried this or if it's a plain bad idea. My group typically plays using initiative cards as miniatures on dry erase board. I then made a coat hanger tape balcony to go around it to signify the second floor. After slot, I can use a magnet on the card and paperclip with stick figure attached as a miniature. If you have a better idea for props, that'd be great, or suggestions of how I can do this to make things simpler or easier. Your listener, Egon. All right. There are ways to do it that are simpler.
There are actually really cool little armatures used for some miniature war games that take place in 3 dimensions, mostly like dogfighter simulators and whatnot. They're really hard to find and probably too expensive for just a game, for one game. But That'd be a cool way to do the 3 dimension stuff.
Yeah, what you're talking about, honestly, the coat hanger tape balcony type thing, is interesting. Honestly, and that sort of visual thing can add a lot to a game.
Mm.
To an encounter, it'll help the players visualize what's going on, and I think it's really cool. And the whole sort of magnet on the card and a paper clip with a stick figure attached to it as a miniature. I think that's actually really clever.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Given that you're working on dry erase boards, honestly, the easiest way to do it would just be to basically mark down if something's higher up, like a higher level up. Just note down like on like in the area that's raised up. Just note down how much higher it is than everything else, and just have like keep a die on like near each like a d6 near each of the players, each of the tokens for the characters to indicate how high up or and such they are above the bottom. Or just keep a way to find a little simple, quick, easy way to keep track of elevation.
You could also stack Oreos underneath the miniatures.
True, and then when they
descend, similar things, and that way when they descend, you have a snacky treat.
Yeah, the problem is you might end up snacking on all your elevation markers.
Oh, well, that's obviously what's happened is that section has defloated now.
Aha.
Because you got hungry. I have not seen this happen before, or been the cause of it.
Sure, Eric. Sure. I was about to ask you, but you were almost certainly the cause, weren't you?
I can neither confirm nor deny this.
Excellent. All right, but yeah, honestly, I think it's a great idea. In terms of other ways to do the props, honestly, you could do a lot with good stout construction paper or like thin manila folders and such, and just with simple cutting and scoring and tape/glue, you can make pretty simple, nice little sort of elevated terrain stuff out of it. Honestly, you can find a lot of information on making terrain for role-playing games on the web, ranging from very simple, basic stuff to incredibly elaborate and awesome stuff that will take forever, but will look awesome. But like
playing miniature war games, it will serve a dual purpose also.
There's that. But yeah, like honestly, using like cardstock to make sort of paper building levels and such is pretty simple and cost effective, and will add stuff to add to the game. So, but your idea with the coat hangers and tape and stuff, and probably paper and such, I think is another good way to do it. But I think it's definitely something. It definitely can add to a combat. I agree completely.
Yeah, definitely. Could be really cool.
It's not something I would bother doing all the time, but for particularly climactic moments, I think it's definitely a good thing to do. The other thing was from Oliver Ellis. This is in response to our question about villains we missed last week when we were talking about great villains in fiction. And he says the only villain you can think of that you did not mention in the episode would have been Griffith from Berserk.
I haven't seen Berserk in so long, I don't really remember him, to be perfectly honest.
No, he was the light-haired pretty boy. The main antagonist. Okay. He goes on to say, "I absolutely hate
the elf that was not an elf." Gotcha.
Right. I absolutely hate Griffith. He is everything that Guts, Berserk's main character, is not: beautiful, graceful, subtle, sociopathic, and absolutely evil. Without spoiling anything, he's the master manipulator. Only fails at first because he wants the one thing he cannot have. He's entirely willing to sacrifice anyone and everyone to reach his goals. He also gets under the hero's skin in a very particular way and messes with Guts by reminding him of the good times they both had. Yeah. That's the thing. Is part of the reason Griffith is such a well done villain is it's got that wonderful trope of he and the main character used to be friends.
Yeah.
And that can make for an absolutely devastatingly awesome villain. He also goes on to say, Berserk is prophecy about a white hawk who will save everyone, and a black dog which brings death and doom with it. Guess one which people believe Griffith is? Hinted it's not the black dog. Also, he can only exist because normal people believe in evil. He gets his power from the literal idea of evil, and existence based entirely on humankind's perceived injustices. Yeah, Griffith is a fantastic villain. I've not watched any of Berserk in a long time, so that's the reason I forgot about him. But yes, Griffith is a fantastic villain. I agree. And that's it for the questions.
Okay.
Is there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap things up for tonight?
I think I'm good. I'll probably think of something after the recording stops, because it's how it always works.
Yeah,
But
it is. But yeah, long story short, backgrounds are great for developing your backgrounds for your player characters is great. I do recommend taking a little bit of time to write like a paragraph.
or at least just to square some stuff in your head. You don't
Yeah.
necessarily need to put it to
To paper.
put it on paper.
Yeah, if you haven't done a lot of work with design with that sort with backgrounds before for your characters, like doing a
1 second. I think someone's at the door.
okay. But as I was saying, I think definitely for people who are more less experienced, I think writing a quick paragraph or two is actually very helpful, even if you're not going to have to do the even if you're not going to have to do, you don't not planning on doing it again in the future. I think it's a helpful thing to do once or twice. Overall, I definitely think that if you spend too much time on, you don't want to spend too much time. Don't want to get too involved in it. As Eric said, it can end up sort of straitjacketing you, and like writing a 10-page paper on it, I think is definitively way overkill, and will box you off from letting your character grow as the campaign goes on. And that's part of the fun of, honestly, that's part of the for me at least with role-playing games, is seeing the characters grow over time and how they change and how they adapt, and filling in parts of your background as you go along is part of that, in my opinion. Yeah. I try to think of anything else I can say before Eric gets back, because Eric has stepped away from the stepped away here, and I don't want to have any real dead air in the recording. But that is basically it for this week, though. So I think I'll just go into the end of the show's spiel. Thanks to everyone for watching tonight. We record every Monday night here on twitch.tv/MechaGM. We start at 7 p.m. Eastern. Previous recordings of the show we record every episode, and I upload those to Blip, and you can find the posts of them. I post the links of the Blip recordings onto my blog, which you can find at mechagm.blogspot.com. So you can find all the previous episodes of Surly Grognards there. And you can also find recordings of various role-playing games I run on stream as well. We will be back next week with some new topic. If you've got questions, we try to save time at the end of each show for answer questions from the viewers. If you got questions that you'd like answered on the show, feel free to email them to us. Our email address is surlygrognards@yahoo.com. surlygrognards@yahoo.com. Or you can post them on our forums, which you can find at mechagm.forumer.com. That's mechagm.forumer, FORUMER.com. So if you've got questions like this show, you can send them to either of those places, or you can hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @mechagm. Or if you've got feedback for us, constructive criticism, what have you, we love getting that stuff. Feel free to send it in. Additionally, if you've got show topic suggestions, we love getting those. Means we can focus more on making the shows as opposed to trying to figure out what the hell we're going to talk about for a given week. You can send them to us at either email address or on the forums. We love getting them at either place. Or you can hit us up on Twitter, hit me up on Twitter, as I said. You can also find me on both Facebook and Google+. I'm Peter Bowman in both places. Other than that, I think that's it for this week. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I hope you all had a good time. Well, as I said, we'll be back next week with a new show. Until I see you guys next, be happy, be safe, keep on gaming. And for Eric and I wish you both, I wish everybody a great night and great rest of the week. We'll see you guys soon. Take care and have a wonderful evening.